Hi there, Lindsay here, the Frugal Crafter. I have got to apologize. It is the end of the month and I'm finally getting a chance to dig into this month's Smart Art Box, and I completely dropped the ball last month because I never got a chance to do something with the fresco kit. So I apologize for those of you that were looking forward to that video. It's just not gonna happen. Oh, I've been so far behind. But anyway, I was really excited about this one. So let's have a look and see what the July kit has in store. And of course, they do sell some of the past boxes on their website. I'll put a link in the video description, and they are our sponsor today. So this this box is is a kind of pop art project. It's kind of also mixed media. It's got a lot of products I'm actually familiar with, so there's a good chance I'll create something that's halfway decent, so that's always nice. We've got Faber-Castell Gelatos in the 50 Diners range, and I actually don't have any of these colors. I checked because I thought, well, let me see if I have any of these, and I don't. These are all different shades, so that's kind of exciting. There's a stencil brush and also a foam pouncer, which will be handy with you know, different techniques. And there's also a Faber-Castell Stampers Big Brush pen. I have had these in the standard and the big brush you know, sizes. They're wonderful once they dry. They're permanent, so if you want to work in layers, it's a wonderful medium that you can use underneath and put things on top because it's not going to smear afterwards. So I don't have a black one, so this is handy. I have the smaller ones in black, so this will be nice to have a bigger brush of this line. There's also a Strathmore watercolor pad. This is 30 sheets, and to tell you the truth, what I'm probably going to end up doing after the video, obviously, is turning this into a watercolor block, and I have a video on how to do that on my channel if you want to know how to make your own watercolor blocks, because they can get pricey, but they're oh so convenient. And this actually has a cover that you can customize, so it comes with like its regular cover, but then you can actually customize this one if you want to make it fancy. Who doesn't like a fancy journal? I mean, seriously. So that's kind of fun and exciting. I haven't used this vision paper before, but it looks an awful lot like the what's it called, the practice paper that they have that you can find at like your big box stores. It's got an I would say a very smooth cold press texture, not like a rougher one, but not like a hot press, but definitely you could stamp on it. So so I've never seen this vision line before, so we'll give that a look and see what we think. We got a tiny stencil brush. We also have a number 4 round Raphael brush, and this is a synthetic. It looks like a golden Taklon. Looks like it has a nice point. I can't get the sleeve off, but I'll work on that. You don't have to watch that. And we've got a Americana stencil, and I think these might be the sticky. These look like the sticky back ones. So we've got a few patterns to deal with. We've got to work with. Oh my gosh! Can you tell that it's late at night and I'm tired? I get a little crazy. So we've got this cool mod squares design, a polka dot, which I love to have polka dots in different sizes because they work so well together, and it's such a basic pattern that it never goes out of style. And then we've got these kind of like starburst circles that are also a little bit kind of 60s and funky and mod. So I'm looking forward to playing with this stash of supplies, and I really am not exactly sure what I'm going to make, but I'm just determined to have some fun with it. So let's see what it'll do. Okay, so funny story is I made this last night, recorded it, except I paused it when I was actually doing the work and then unpaused it when I was like drying it and doing other things that nobody would want to see. So I figured you didn't want 17 minutes of me drying this piece of artwork, so I thought I would do it again in real time. So hey, it was going to be a speed paint, but now it's a real time, so that's something, right? Okay, we are going to begin by grabbing a stencil from the Smart Art Box, and we're going to be using this we're going to use a couple different techniques here. First one is to actually just take your Stampers Big Brush pen, and this is a marker. It acts an awful lot like, you know, any of your water-based like watercolor markers, except when this is dry, it's India ink. Well, it's always India ink, but once it's dry, it's completely non-liftable. So it's a great way to get those lines down, or shapes, or like I'm doing here with the stenciling, on your paper right off the bat, so that you don't you can get like any sort of pattern and design and texture and stuff down without worrying about losing it in your subsequent layers. It's not going to smear, it's not going to make everything all gross and grungy on top. It's just a great way to get that kind of underlaying design. And you can use it on top of all of your surfaces too, all of your mediums too, and it works out really well for that. I'm using the little blender thing that came in a little Gelatos pack. Alright, stencil that in there. And so now we have this nice little border there that's kind of cool. And another thing that's kind of neat with this is that I can get it wet. I've got a little bit of that ink in there still, so I can get this wet. And then I could do like a random polka dot pattern on the background and keep repeating that design, because I think when you repeat a design, you just get this harmony happening in your piece. So if I wanted to use that kind of like a almost like a paintbrush, I could scribble my marker onto my craft mat. And this is just like a Teflon baking sheet. That's what I use. It's a lot cheaper than the, you know, store-bought craft mats, but it's pretty much the same thing. I got mine from LTD Commodities quite a while ago. You got 2 in a pack, and one I just cut up into smaller sizes so I'd have little individual project mats, and then I kept one big for my main work area. So if you catch this while it's still wet, you can actually just spread it around with a wet brush here, like I'm doing right there. So very versatile, a lot of fun. I want to use this other stencil here. So we have these modern squares. I don't think that's going to look very good with all the circles, so I'm just going to keep with the same theme, and I'm using this. And with this one, because the stencil holes are so close together, I can actually color across and not get color in the holes, and then I can come around with my little tool here and then smush them in. So that's kind of handy if you don't want a super black line. So this little tool that was in the Gelatos is really handy. You do have to worry about how much moisture you put in here. I think there might have been some seep under the back. That's alright. Because, you know, whenever you're using a stencil, if you have anything too juicy, it's going to make a mess. We'll just kind of keep that in mind. But these are the underpinnings here of our drawing, so it doesn't really matter if it gets messy, because we're going to be adding a lot of layers on top. And maybe do another one down here. I don't know if it will show up when we're done. Your stencils will become stained by this if you don't wash them immediately, and maybe even if you do wash them immediately. But I wouldn't worry about it because it is a permanent product. It shouldn't go on to damage any like other artwork you're doing. You know, it shouldn't come off and smear anything else. So I really wouldn't worry too much about it. Okay, so now I'm going to dry this, and I'm going to pause the video. Hopefully I will remember to turn it back on at the right time. I'm checking to make sure we're rolling. Okay, now a tip, when you're working in a block like this or on a sketch pad and you don't want to get your stuff underneath, like the next page dirty, just find a scrap of something you can stick in there. It could be a piece of paper or packaging or whatever, just to protect those pieces underneath so you know that gooey stuff doesn't leak underneath. So actually this has gotten a little dirty because I used that before, so I'm just wiping it off. That's how you clean those. And I'm going to just go in and color a bit. I want to have some nice bright yellow. The yellow and the reddish orange were very saturated in this kit, which was nice. The blue is very pale. It's got a lot of white in it, so it does limit its usefulness. But I really wanted to stick to the products in this kit because I think that would really, you know, that's kind of helpful if maybe this is your first kit, you've never done any you know, mixed media or anything. This might be a nice way for you to learn it and you don't feel like you have to have anything else. But that said, if you have a bunch of supplies at home, I would really recommend that you mix it and match it, because you're going to get a lot more versatility if you add a few more supplies. So I'm going to use the brush that came in the kit with the Gelatos, and I'm just going to start by liquefying the yellow area. Now if by some chance I find some wet ink, like I kind of there, I could see a little bit of a smudge. If that happens and you do smudge into some of the black India ink from the pen, rinse your brush off and keep on going. Do not fret, do not, you know, worry. If you get some smearing, it's just probably because something wasn't completely dry, but don't let it ruin your day. Just keep on moving. By the time we're done, you're really not going to notice any smears. They're going to add to the whole whimsical nature of the piece. I am cleaning my brush in a bucket of water, and then I'm just going to go in and do the blue kind of on its own. This Robin's Egg blue is super weak, so, you know, I would just kind of be aware of that as you're working. Okay, so I've got it toned. It's not really painted too much, but it is toned. I want to go in with some of this red, blood orange it's called, And to apply this, what I'm going to do is actually scribble it onto my craft mat, make myself a little palette, and clean my brush here, and I am going to add some water to it so I end up with like almost like a watercolor. And I am going to do kind of a bit of a border here. I like to kind of paint in some of these circles. I think it looks nice. I think it helps like unify a little bit. When you see the same thing, you know, repeated, it gives you that feeling of unity. And then I want to kind of have some drippy orange. So what I'm going to do is make a nice big puddle of it and add some water and then just drizzle it on. So you want to tip it. Anytime you want to have some drips, you want to kind of tilt it and then put in your big kind of beads and gobs of color, and then sometimes you have to squeeze your brush just to get it to drizzle in. This is a very unusual color combination for me, so it was kind of fun. Definitely has that mid-century modern vibe. I've been watching the reboot of not the reboot, but the new Twin Peaks, new episodes of Twin Peaks, and it's got a very mid-century modern vibe to it as well, so it's kind of fitting. I just watched that last night. And now I'm going to dry it again and pause the video. Okay, still rolling. Doing good today. So much better than yesterday. So now I want to do some more stenciling. I'm going to keep repeating that pattern. I am going to use the orange though this time because that's my most vibrant color. And to stencil, the kit also came with this little stencil brush, so I thought this might be a little bit better for doing these little holes here. I could go over it. Like if I went on top of the gelato, I think I'd end up just like, because the holes aren't very big, maybe I could. See, but it wants to catch on the stencil, so that's why I want to use a stencil brush. But if you do this, then you can go in with a stencil brush and you can kind of pick up those crumbs and spread it around. Because you really don't want a lot of water when you're using the stencils, or stuff will leak underneath and you'll get a messy feathered edge, which isn't, you know, the end of the world or anything. So don't, you know, fret about it if that happens. But it's nice to know how to avoid it if you do want to avoid it. And you don't have to go in every hole. I think it's nice to see the designs broken up a little bit. And then, you know, just try to bring it a few places around the canvas or paper image. And it really, you know, that uses up some media too. I find that if I do work into the paper like this, either with a little bit of water or a little bit of pressure, then it doesn't smear. And if you give it time to dry and absorb, it actually does not stay too greasy. I mean, you might have trouble if you were trying to glue something on top of it, if you weren't using a very strong adhesive, but I don't have any really big, you know, problems, unless I had like a really thick, like waxy crumb chunk on there or something. So another thing you can do, it's kind of fun, is to make a little like just kind of messy sloppy print. And to do that, you simply just scribble out your color, make a big kind of blob of it. You've probably done this before if you've done like card making, but I think this looks a little stark, so I'm gonna press that part of my paper in there. You can give it a little smush and it just gives you some interesting texture. You could do that with more colors, but that would make mud, and I actually need to make some mud on purpose in a minute, because when we go to do our nest, we don't have a brown, so we don't have a brown for our birds, so we're going to have to do some mud making on purpose. So I want to kind of keep these kind of clean, these background colors kind of clean, so I'll be able to do that. So I'm just going to go right ahead and start sketching with my marker. I want to put some eggs, and these are going to be exaggeratedly large eggs, because I wanted robin's eggs, but robin's eggs are tiny, and I wanted them to be a little bit bigger. So I'm just drawing these kind of oval shapes. You can make yours tinier if you want to. Don't feel like you have to do it just like me. We all have different tastes, so vive la différence, and you do your, that was an awful French accent, I apologize to the people of France, and you just do what you want to do. And I'm just kind of sketching a really rough, loose nest. So I'm just basically making squiggles, squiggly marks. That's a great thing about mixed media, is that like you just keep layering and layering until you're happy. You don't have to worry about preserving anything or or planning a heck of a lot. So it's very, very freeing. Since I know what I'm doing, or know what I'm planning on doing, it's easy for me to talk and do this at the same time. But the first time, when I made that first piece that I showed you a minute ago, I couldn't have talked and done that at the same time because I was too busy trying to decide what else I wanted to add. So you see a lot of mixed media like speed paints or time lapse and stuff. I mean, give people a break. It takes a lot to think of what you're doing and do it unless you have it all like pre-done and planned out and stuff. So I just want to put that out there. And now I want a bird, and even though that's kind of wet, I probably should dry that, but I'm just going to throw caution to the wind and sketch on a little bird here. Try to use kind of like my background to kind of guide me where I want things to be. Like I might, if I want to avoid a certain area, I might put the tail a little lower than I did in the last one. I just try to, you know, make it look kind of like it fits with the picture. Even though, like, if those were the eggs that came out of that bird, that would be one uncomfortable journey to parenthood for that poor thing. And I'm just going to draw in some feathers, some black feathers, or dark feathers, I guess robins. Well, they're kind of like a brownish black. And just get the legs there. Alright, now I'm going to pause that while that dries in my furnace, runs its course. Okay, now we get to color, and this is really fun actually, because these are really nice to color with. I got some yellow on there, so I'm just going to wipe it off. This is really nice to color with because they're like lipsticks. They're just so yummy and creamy, and what I want to do is put a nice thick base of the, what color is this? This is called Aqua Dolce. Sounds very fancy. I'd call it aqua, I guess, or mint. Kind of a mint color. And then I want to get some shadow, and the reason I put the light color in first is because this is pretty dark. This is Squid Ink is the name of it. And so I'm going to put my shadows in bottom of the eggs and like on the in behind where the eggs are kind of overlapping each other. And now I'm going to blend this with my fingers, and this actually just feels marvelous. It's like crayons. If you ever did crayons in school, that's what it feels like. And I'm doing the eggs first because then I can, got a big crumb there. That way I can kind of clean up my edges when I go in to do more with the nest. So you want to keep, you can just keep building up your colors and your layers on this. And don't worry about getting it on there too thick, because we're going to do a technique where we scratch back to the paper. I think it's called scrifato. I could be totally mispronouncing that, but in my head that's how it sounds whenever I see that technique in an art book. But basically it's just scratching back, and it's pretty cool. I enjoy it. And you could use the brush too if you want to get like say you want a little bit more detail, so you scribble out a little bit, use that little brush that was in the Smart Art kit. Don't want it too watery because you don't want to make this a mess, but you can go in and you can guide exactly where you want that shadow to be. And there's really no wrong way to do this. I mean, have fun, enjoy it. This brush is a little too soft to push around that that pastel, and I don't know if I can get this stencil brush clean enough, but we'll try. It's pretty well stained, but I think that's just because the pigments was pretty strong. Oh, that just seems to be removing everything. That's a little too stiff. That one's too stiff, that one's too soft. Oh well, we'll just build it up. We'll get there. This is kind of my favorite part, doing these eggs, because they're just, it's so fun to play with these creamy colors. Just going a little bit more with a shadow, and we can clean things up with a marker in a bit. So don't worry if you got fuzzy lines and you don't like them. It can be kind of dreamy when you see those fuzzy shapes, I think. And then let's color in the bird a little bit. I think let's go in with just the pure color, that pure red first, and then temper it down a little bit after that. Okay, I'll go over on top of that with some yellow, and remember we can just wipe off the crayon when we're done, so it's not a big deal. And then we'll add some of this gray in here. And I also want to put some gray in the nest. We're going to be really just mixing colors together to make brown here for the nest. But gray's a nice base because it's already desaturated, and by that I mean it doesn't have a lot of pure, it doesn't have any real pure color in there, so it's an easy one to start from. And browns, I mean, browns are kind of oranges. If you think about it, when you look at a brown, it does kind of have like an orange. If you had to pick a color it was closest to, most of your browns are going to be pretty close to orange. So I'm going with that one next. And the opposite of orange is blue, and even though this isn't a real bright blue, it can still help us, you know, dull things down a little bit. And then we can go with a little bit of yellow. It doesn't even matter that has orange on there because it's going to be mixed in with some orange. Now I'm going to liquefy some of those colors. I'm going to see how this one will do. I don't know if this brush is going to cut it. We might need to go with the longer-haired hog brush, but yeah, that's not working as well as I'd hoped. Oops. Don't leave this brush sitting in water. I just left it sitting in water, but it's like short and it's all wooden, and I think I would end up with a split brush if I did that too much. But this I can just kind of liquefy everything and get it all nice and smudgy, which is what I'm going for. This is a nest. I want it soft and brown and messy for right now. And this is why I was going to time lapse this and voice it over, because it takes longer than it seems it ought to. Okay, and I think I will use the little brush for the bird. Actually, use my fingers first. And you can get your fingers wet, and then that can help move everything. It's actually kind of delightful. It's just like, it's like finger painting. And remember, you always can go back in with that marker. There's no, you know, it's not like, well, I already did that layer, I can't go back with marker again. There's no rules here. And it's only a piece of paper. If you don't love the way it came out, then, you know, that's fine. Do it a different way. So now I think I'm going to see, yeah, I'm going to scratch in some, like, twigs with my, this is, okay, so I cheated. This is a piece of a credit card. This didn't come in the kit. You could probably cut, I don't know, you might be able to sharpen the end of your brush or something. I don't know, I love to keep little old gift cards, cut them up, use them for little scraping tools. They just work really good for texture. You can even write things in the waxy gelatos if you wanted to, like if you wanted to leave a secret message or something. I like to go in and add contour lines like around the eggs. It's kind of like you get to sketch, but if you don't like your, you know, maybe you're nervous to sketch, this takes kind of a lot of that fear away because it's not as bold as like going in with a marker. And if you do have, it's like scratch art kind of, because if you do have some, you know, marker underneath, you're going to be revealing that, and then you're going to be revealing some highlights too. So it's just, I just think it's a lot of fun. And you have to have a thick application of these gelatos underneath in order for that to work. The next technique I want to share is a spattering technique. You know I love my spattering. So what I'm going to do is scribble out my black marker onto my craft mat. It beads up, so it's hard to see that there's some there, but there's quite a bit of ink there. And I've got a wet brush, and I'm just picking it up with, picking up the ink with this wet brush. And I'm just going to spatter this so it kind of has speckles, kind of like the robin's eggs do. So look how that is easy. And then with the leftover, because I don't like to waste my leftovers, I'm just going to add to my frame. Because I knew I wanted it a little bit darker, so why waste this ink? I might still want it darker, but I may as well put this ink to good use while I'm at it. So, waste not, want not. I like a nice frame. When building that frame, sometimes there's a difference between a ho-hum page and a page that really works, so just kind of keep that in mind. Okay, so the next thing I want to do is go in with a marker. I think pretty much everything is dry enough that I can go in here with a marker, but I do like wipe off the tip when I'm done because it can, because it is a water-based marker, even though it's permanent when it dries, it's a water-based marker, so it's going to dissolve your gelatos underneath, so some of that waxy stuff is going to get into the tip, and if you don't clean it out, then it will eventually clog up and not work very well, or maybe even the tip will fray a little bit. So you just kind of want to take that second, wipe off the tip of your marker, and then you'll have a longer life from it. I just want to give him little leg nubs just so we know how he's kind of standing there. And even though like it looked like that nest was really dark and bold, the marker is still standing up, is still holding its own on top of it. If you want, you can even like make you know, dividing lines between the eggs. I don't think I'd want to do that just on its own, but I would totally scribble off a little there, grab it with my brush. So I just have like a I can do like a finer line and then go in and do that. So just keep that in mind. If you feel like, you know, going in with a marker would be way too heavy-handed because it'd be so much ink in there, you can just scribble it out and use a brush, and that's a much easier way to get those sharper lines without having to worry about going in with your brush. I hope that makes sense. And I just like that I can sharpen things up with the oh my word, what's the word? Brush pen? Brush pen. Big brush marker. Okay, so let's see. I still feel like I want a little bit of brightness and pops of color, so my only two bright options are my aqua color and my bright yellow. So I do want those brighter options in my nest, so I'm just going to go in and add them. Remember what I said about it being a very intuitive, no rules type of thing. You're not done until it's not done until you decide it's done. Maybe even a little bit of red. I feel like I don't have enough color. I think it's because I'm so used to using so many more colors that this is a little bit of a challenge for me. And maybe I will smear it out with a little bit of this. I'm gonna let that dry for a second. And while I'm doing that, I'm going to try the end of my brush as far as like, that doesn't scrape out as well as a credit card scraper. I was just wondering if maybe it would. But I feel like I just want more lines in the bird. So I'm just going in and adding that. And then as this is wet though, you can really get in there and scratch. And maybe that will give me the lights that I want, because I can scratch right down to the paper. When I put new medium down, a lot of times that gives me the ability to really dig in there and go back to the paper. And you know, it might even be digging into that first layer of paper, and that's why I'm getting that result. But you know, you don't know until you try it, and I actually like that. I like getting back down to that white, because I don't have a white. I have to use the white on my paper for this project. But you could go ahead and use whatever you want. I mean, I could too, but I just think it's kind of fun to challenge myself to do something different, to force myself to have a limitation, and to see what I can learn, because that's how you that's kind of how you grow and discover new things. So I do want a darker frame, so I'm going right in with a marker. And these, I mean, these last pretty well. I have some of these in other colors. I use them for rubber stamping mostly, but they last pretty well, and they got a lot of ink in them. The tips can get a little frayed, but I'm generally not using them as a precise instrument. I'm using them to like ink up a rubber stamp, or to, you know, just add a little color here and there. So they're not, you know, the tips don't stay pointy forever, but they do have a lot of medium in them. I feel like I want a little more red in a few spots. It's because red is my favorite color, so I like to get it in there. I just like how much energy it has. I need a little red over there. Just pretty much go with your gut, you know. And then just to clean your workspace when you're done, all you need to do is just take a rag and wipe it down. So I'm just highlighting. I'm using this blue to highlight because it's really more white than anything. And really, that's all there is to it. I'm going to show you the driver. Oh, you know what I can do now that I've roulette that? Hold on, hold the phone. I can do a little more scraping in there if I want to. When you re-wet something, you get some good options to re-scrape. But there you have it. I'm going to show you the dried version because I have it right here. It was a lot of fun to make. I was just kind of hanging out and creating this last night, and I usually like my first one better, and I think I do like my first one better in this situation as well. But it was a lot of fun, and I enjoyed using a limited amount of supplies and kind of seeing how creative I could be with those. What would you have painted? Let me know in the comments below. If you want to purchase this kit or subscribe to Smart Art Box so you get a surprise box of supplies in your mailbox every month, check out the link in the video description. I will put you right to their main page. You can see what they have. You can look at the old kits if you don't want to take a chance getting something you can't use. You can look at their older kits and see if something like that suits you better. Thank you so much for watching. Please give me a thumbs up if you like these real-time mixed media tutorials. Until next time, happy crafting.